Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk, intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
Hey, and good Saturday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to catch our drift. Joining me in studio, it's the Ed Bonderenka.
Hey, good Saturday afternoon that has snow today. When I woke up to snow.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
A little white this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I didn't expect it. It's just kind of been an odd Christmas for me because there's been no snow. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been that as cold as I thought it would be this year. So.
Nope.
Yeah,
I don't know whether to take the mower deck off my tractor and put the snow blade on or not.
You're going to laugh. I broke the mower out yesterday and mowed part of my front yard that had a whole bunch of leaves on it. I'm like, I'm getting those right now.
Yeah.
Mowed them up, put it away.
Last year, I regretted taking the mower deck off. You know, I don't think I used the blade once.
Right. Well, if you wait, that stuff will be soggy in the spring, so I got it done. Well, anyways, welcome to The Drift, and what we do every Saturday is go over the news that we put on thedailydrift.com, and if you're not going there, you should. It's
the news you need to know.
Thank you very much. And let's take care of a little business before we move on to the meat of the show here. Dig-It Services, LLC. If you got some excavating, some work around the house that you want, or the farm that you want to get done, skid steer services and mini excavator, Mike Kuzma, 248-789-7619. That's 248-789-7619. Mike's got great equipment. He's a great guy, and he's got the experience to get your jobs done fast and economically at an economical good price.
Yeah, why would you want to shovel all that stuff when you can pay a guy a small amount of money and watch him do it, you know?
Exactly. So give Mike Kuzma a call, 248-789-7619. He's got great brand new equipment, and he can come out and get your jobs done for you. So if you got questions, comments on The Daily Drift or this radio show, email me, Gary@thedailydrift.com. And we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about a number of things. We've got a special guest on the phone, Todd Wood from Tsarism.com. It's hard for me to say, Tsarism.com. And you've probably heard him on the Gruber Show. That's where I've heard Todd a number of times, and he's what I consider one of the foremost experts. And Todd, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, so thanks for coming. My experience with you is I catch you pretty regularly on Gruber's show. And when the Syria pullout came, a week or so ago, I thought to myself, who's the guy that's going to know the ins and the outs of Syria and Russia's take on it and our take on it? And I immediately thought of you. And lo and behold, you actually had an article that I put a link to yesterday on the Daily Drift. So tell us, I mean, some people, it seems like the deep state, the media, the elite are all complaining about Trump.
Are you I'm sorry, do we call you by L or Todd?
Just call me Todd.
Todd.
Okay, Todd. So Are you pro or con?
Well, I can see both sides, but I would have to say I'm in the Trump camp. What I look at is why were we there in the first place, and what is a couple thousand troops going to do for us in the long run in Syria? The things that are important to us there are defeating the Islamic State and keeping them from killing Americans around the world and our allies. That has been mostly completed. There is still some remnants of that force out there, and they could metastasize again if left alone. So that's number one. We have to deal with that. So how's the best way to deal with that? Is it American forces on the ground, or is it with, some of our allies in the region? So I think Trump has decided the latter. And second of all, a few thousand American forces on the ground in Syria in kind of an advisory role are very vulnerable, and they've been dying there on a regular basis. So I'm with Trump on this one. Why have more American forces die when we're really not serious in there in a big way? And the final thing I would say is that the way we can solve this problem in the Middle East is not by just keeping, a few companies in Syria. The way we can solve it is destabilizing and bringing down the Iranian regime, not with American troops, but with forces inside Iran, which are very willing and able and ready to do that. So I think if you look at the bigger picture, I'm with our commander-in-chief on this decision.
So let me ask you, Todd, is Iran less stable than many of us believe or what the media tells us?
Yes, Iran is first of all, it's a murderous, corrupt regime which the people loathe. The Revolutionary Guards, which is the brown shirts for the mullahs, basically has ripped off the entire country, has directed even their drinking water away from large parts of the country. People don't even have fresh water. Their currency is collapsing. They are murdering, executing anyone that does not follow the regime's path. So this is not some kind of, religious regime that the people support. It's a group of thugs who are using religion to control the people and treating them very badly in the process. So, yes, there is a revolutionary movement within the regime, or within the country, and they are ready to do the job. They would just need our support. I don't advocate sending American forces into Iran at all, but I do think we can support the elements that want to bring down the regime, as Obama did not do in 2009.
Exactly. I was going to ask you about the Green Revolution and what your take on was that. How much success do you think that might have had we actually not supported the thugs instead of the rebellion?
Well, it's not even that we just didn't support the rebellion. As you said, we actually helped rebellion or helped the regime put down the rebellion.
Well, that's what I meant, help the thugs, yeah.
Yeah, so you have a group within the country called Mujahideen-e-Khalq, or the People's Mujahideen of Iran, and they are a group that wants to promote liberal Islam, tolerant Islam, democracy. The group is run by a woman. It's a very big affront to the mullahs regime, and they're really, I can't say it enough, that, for instance, they've executed over 120,000 of these people in the last decade or so.
Wow.
So they don't like the regime, put it that way. Most everyone in Iran has a family member who's been killed by the regime. So, and I'll give you an example. There was a big rally a couple decades ago, and it scared the regime, so they arrested anyone who was there, including a bunch of 12-year-old girls, executed them, and then put their pictures in the paper and said, if you know any of these girls, come get the bodies. So that's how the families found out about it. So, this is the kind of people we're dealing with. And yes, they can fall if the economy's crumbling, their support is crumbling, and they're only in place due to repression.
Yeah, crazy.
And that's because of our sanctions.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So Obama did not send them enough money to help them out of the sanctions.
Well, he tried. Yeah. He very much tried. But, and I don't get the love of this regime. I really don't. I mean, if you're a feminist, my God,
Yeah, I was thinking to myself as I was driving in, why is it that the left, the elitist, globalist elite, and the media are basically putting themselves up for cultural suicide by protecting and helping and sponsoring Islamic terrorism or extremist Islamism? I don't get it.
I'll speak for a portion of our audience that believes, like myself, that this is a spiritual battle. I don't expect either you two guys to agree with me, but there is a force in this world that's just satanic, and it drives the left, it drives the hardline Muslim culture, and basically it actually allies these two forces. That's the only explanation for these two forces being aligned, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just mystified. I can never figure it out that Western Europe, the Western world, is so what they claim is tolerance, I guess, for the most intolerant religion on the planet. Am I wrong? Am I wrong, Todd?
Well, I think that there's truth in everything you guys are saying. I think there is a force that wants to bring down Western civilization because they see it as a threat to really elites controlling, the population. If you look at communism, all it was a method of controlling the masses. This is what China's doing. They have 1 million of their own citizens in concentration camps as we speak right now. They are putting additional family members in certain homes to make sure that people aren't against the regime and to report back if they see anything. So this is the same kind of control or totalitarianism or whatever you want to call it. And I think there are forces that want to bring down the West, which has championed freedom, and they've aligned with Islam or extremist Islam to do that.
Yeah. So what is it you think then, Todd? Maybe that kind of ties into people like Lindsey Graham. Lately, I've been kind of like changing my tune on.
You're bipolar.
But then he turns around and kind of headbutts the president on why are we pulling out. This is a major mistake to be pulling out of Syria, and there's a big contingent, and the Dems, of course, anything they can do to yell at Trump for something or other. What is it in Washington, D.C. that they keep pushing for more troops there?
Do we have any economic interest that holds us there?
Well, the interest that a lot of them bring up is Kurdistan, but, to help the Kurds that have helped us fight ISIS. Okay, well, my point is, many people in the world have fought for their own freedom. The Israelis, the Americans, yes, we had help, they had help, but let's give them arms and let them fight for their freedom if we want to. But why should American boys and girls and men and women be dying for Kurdistan? It's just not in our interest, especially since we're energy independent and we don't have the need for Middle Eastern oil anymore. Thanks to Donald Trump.
Kurdistan helped us.
I don't know if I answered your question, but Washington is just there's always a push for more war that leads to money, that leads to influence, that leads to there's a lot of vested interests that are against what our president's doing.
Yeah, which Ed kind of brought up last week. Ed, and you wanted to talk a little bit about Smedley Butler. Todd, you're familiar with Smedley Butler, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so Smedley Butler was a Marine Corps general. Right?
Yeah, he was almost commandant of the Marines, and in the 30s. And he was the guy with 2 Congressional Medals of Honor, a few Distinguished Navy Service Crosses, I think, and lots of medals. And he retired from the military, and he'd been in the Banana Wars. He'd been in China. And when he got out, he gave a speech, says, war is a racket. And he said he's tired of fighting to work for the interests of American bankers really, at that time, the DuPonts and economic interests, and then seeing young men get killed over that. And his thing was that he did not want to – he was for defense. He wasn't a pacifist, even though he's raised a Quaker. He wanted to see our defense start at our shores. He even proposed legislation that our ships would not be worried about 200 miles out and our airplanes not more than 500 miles out. I don't necessarily agree with everything Smedley Butler said, but it was very popular. And there's more to it because he was involved with some other stuff that to help thwart a plot against FDR, a takeover of the FDR government.
Yeah, interesting reading. Anyways, if you go to it, but so it begs for me, Todd, and I like your take because I read your article. Why were we in Syria again to begin with? It's not our backyard. It's the Saudis' backyard. It's the Israelis' backyard. It's Western Europe's backyard.
But we were in there because of ISIS.
Exactly.
We went for ISIS. Okay. Now, what economic interest would keep us there?
Well, let me ask you this, Todd. I'm a bit of a conspiracy guy. I love me a good conspiracy. Mm-hmm. I've heard talk of a pipeline that should be going through Syria somewhere. I don't ask me the details because the article I read was quite some time ago. Mm-hmm. Is there something going on with oil transportation in that neck of the woods? And are the Russians, the Syrians, the Turks, the Saudis all fighting for control or something in that area? Yes,
and we have no dog in that fight. I mean, Russia especially is in the Middle East for economic reasons. I mean, it wasn't highly reported, but several months back, we killed about 300 or 400 Russians who were
mercenaries, supposed mercenaries.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
most of them, some maybe from other parts of the former Soviet Union.
Conscripted
mercenaries. They were trying to take over an oil field. There's a guy named Yevgeny Prigozhin, who his nickname is Putin's chef, and he does a lot of just special things for Putin. He runs a catering service in Moscow, strangely enough, for the military, but he also runs the Wagner Group, which is a big mercenary force that's been all over in Ukraine and Syria. And they were the ones who got waxed by American air power one night because they just decided they wanted this airfield or oil field, and there was a bunch of American SF there. So, yes, they are there big time for economic reasons, which, we don't need to be there for economic reasons. And, meanwhile, Trump is saying our borders are being overrun. Our military should be here protecting the country, not necessarily in Syria. So.
Yeah, and again, it's just a hypocrisy that the left, the Dems, the media, the global